Hello, my name is Austin Belzer from Austin B Media, and welcome to another interview from South by Southwest 2025. Today, I have the pleasure of talking to the director of the film of Surviving Earth, Thea Gajić. Am I pronouncing that right?
Gajić.
Gajić. Okay,
Yes,
sorry.
that's
Uh,
okay.
You're one of the
and
better ones. It's a pleasure.
Slavko Sobin,
Yes.
You're good.
and one of its stars, Slavko, which I just talked about. For South by Southwest, you can catch Surviving Earth during South by Southwest on March 11th and 13th through its multiple screening. Oh, may be aware, it's a poignant drama based on a true story about Vlad, a talented harmonica player and a counselor who fled the conflict in Yugoslavia and rebuilt his life in Bristol. Sorry for that long introduction, but yeah, welcome.
Might steal it for the rest of the trip.
Feel free, feel free. Yeah, feel free to steal any of this stuff. Story about what inspired you to bring Vlad's journey to the screen.
Father. And I was 21 when he passed, and I think I learned a lot in a short space of time about, what his life actually was. I guess when you're so close to someone, you take those things for granted, I think, a little bit, and you don't kind of realize the gravity of what your parents have been through, especially not at that age anyway. I kind of realized the gravity of his experience on Earth and what he had been through, and the people that he had touched, and that was led me, after having conversations with other people whenever I spoke about him, it led me to feel like it was a good enough story to share with a wider audience.
And then, Slavko, from your perspective, how did you prepare bringing Vlad to life in his multifaceted persona?
So, obviously, I had Thea and her mom and his friends to talk to, and some videos and pictures. So I was given enough of visual materials and information about him, right, to figure out where all of his troubles and insecurities, I guess, came from. And somewhere I feel like I found this feeling that he must have had of, like, why the fuck can't I just get a break? But
No, you're good.
I have a feeling like that was his, like, he was a fun and ambitious man that just, he was somebody that probably had to give 800% more than someone else, having the stigma of being an ex-addict. People tend to see a certain way that's not necessarily human and kind. Struggles. I loved figuring out why, with all the support and love he was getting from people close around him, why that wasn't enough. Why it was so hard for him to, go through the day, for people to, see and watch and maybe bring to their own example how maybe we should be kinder to ourselves as human beings, and a little bit more supportive of ourselves, so we can be supportive of others. Then I don't know. I think I love him. I love the guy.
And Thea, I'd love to hear from your perspective. I know Slavko just talked about people only see one thing when they see an addict, and I'd love to get your perspective on that really quick.
When he did die, I kind of had this, it kind of felt like you get a label put on you where you're like, oh, now I'm a person whose parent died from a overdose, right? And I think that the weight of that feels a bit surreal. I remember having to, like, tell myself, oh, this happened to me, like it's not someone else's story, which I think a lot of us feel like death is and loss is far removed from us when it's only a phone call away for many of us. And I think having that thought process and then thinking about what I knew of him, it's like, well, no, he wasn't. If you saw him on the street, you wouldn't think that he was. He was very highly functioning. And, I think it's important to lift that veil of all of our mental health, especially men's mental health. He committed suicide, but suicide is a massive, the biggest killer of men between certain age, especially in the UK anyway. Our struggle is at the heart of that. And I think it's important for me, that people start having conversations more about topics that are stigmatized, and get people the help that they need, because it's like hard for addicts to overcome.
Talking about mental health in Balkan culture, where I'm from, where Vlad was from, that's unheard of. Like, men don't have mental problems, just soldier up, be a big boy and soldier up. So
yeah, I definitely think that's pretty true. What you were saying, Thea, about it being mental health and men really being kind of ignored. And I think maybe in the past year, I think we've kind of seen a shift towards, maybe it isn't such a not cliche topic, but a taboo topic. That's what the word I'm searching for. Sorry, I've only had one cup of coffee this morning. But, Slavko, going back to you, obviously there are light sides to this story. So I'd love to hear about balancing those two sides of Vlad.
Yeah, it's actually something that came up a lot in the thought process. I think that's what's interesting. He tried to be this light persona. He was almost a clownish persona in front of other people. All of his, I don't want to say dark, but heaviness came in the moments when he was alone, actually trying to be the best version of himself. I think it's amazing how much we don't know about we don't know how much people work on themselves on their own and what their struggles are. So I think bringing out the light, the public light, and the solo heaviness, that was kind of the balance that I wanted to accomplish. And then later on, as some problems happen, he can't control the two, so they start matching up and mixing up. Like, 1 second he's breaking down, the second one he's helping a homeless man and taking his dog. It's just like a roller coaster of things. He was a ray of sunshine. The ones that weren't the closest to him, it's hard to discuss in front of Thea, because I'm sure when I say he was a ray of sunshine to people, that's not really necessarily true. But I think he was a light person.
Yeah, and I want to make sure I'm being sensitive in this interview too. If there's ever anything that maybe I'm broaching that and I'll edit it out. Or
made a movie about it.
I'm fine. I'm happy. But thank you for considering that. But I'm happy to talk.
Okay. And so with that, I want to get back to something Slavko said about Balkan culture. Thea, I'd love to hear about the weaving of Balkan music into the narrative and how you incorporated that in this.
It's a massive part of who Vlad was and who Vlad is in the film. Music, playing his own playlists and the music that he likes to listen to, which always came from all over the world. He had a very eclectic taste, which I hope is portrayed in the soundtrack. He had his own band in real life, and he was very passionate about bringing some of his culture to England with him. I guess also it's a survival tactic, is how you feel closer to the things that you left behind. There's also music that brings a lot of people joy and happiness and fun and drunkenness and jolliness and all of those things. In terms of the actual conception of it, we used a lot of the band's original songs and recreated them for the film, which was a very wholesome experience. We worked with some of the existing members of that band and spent a lot of time together in a house and in the countryside, and kind of hashed it all out together with these amazing musicians. His essence was able to be poured back into the music for the film.
And we had a great music director, Hugo.
And Hugo was a really great music director who led that process with the musicians.
And really quick, I'd love to hear about the collaborative process, working with one another to kind of, Slavko, obviously, you're bringing how do I bring Vlad to life in this? But yeah, I'd just love to hear about the collaborative process.
We had, in the entire shoot, we had one argument because I was hungry and she was right. Everything else was just, it was such a pleasure. I'm so honored to, you're honored when a director gives you a part, when a director lets you play her favorite person in the world. That's just a double whammy. And she's a brilliant director, very concise on her direction, very kind, very gentle. Amazing. You're on set and you're given everything. A great script, great crew, great supporting cast. Just you're there and you're like, if I don't make this work, I'm just never going to make anything work. So this was a slice of heaven for me.
That's quote.
Now you say something.
I love the collaborative process. I think what makes work thrive is creating the ballpark in which people can create from. So like as a director, I feel like my job is to be very clear about of the film. So all of the heads of department and all of the actors can then go away and, take from that what they will. So I had 5 ideas. I might say yes to 3 of them, for example.
4.
But that's what's important. It's important to be able to have that back and forth. Then are allowed to trust each other more and trust that, if I gave him a direction that didn't feel right, he would be able to confidently explain to me why that is, and I would understand why, and so having that trust in your team is what creates, I feel like, and at the very least, a really good working environment. Slavko was excellent at coming up with ideas, and he also crazily, like, whenever he would improv some stuff, it would literally just be like so spot on. There was a day that he improved a few lines, and it was the day that my mum came to set to visit, and she looked at me and laughed because obviously she didn't know it was improvised. She thought, oh, that's so well written, that bit is so Vlad. And I was like, I didn't write that. That's the first time I've seen it. Slavko just so deeply understood the character he was playing, which allows him to be, for things to come. I think you have to be free so that things can come to you.
You asked whether you should ask any questions. I apologize if you asked some questions. Thea was so naked, metaphorically, on set. I mean, my English is bad. So she gave everything to us. She was vulnerable. She was very intimate with us. So, and that of course helped. Those days we shot the movie, we all shared her life story as if it was ours, thanks to the way she let us in.
For that answer, going to kind of the themes of language and identity, the film features both English and Serbian dialogue. How did you ensure that both languages enriched, the story and reflected Vlad's dual identity?
Can I maybe say?
Yes.
I mean, in the end, language is just a language. So you are the second person to ask this, and we never really even thought. I mean, in creating the character, I did think he was a Serbian guy who moved to England when he was 19. He's a musician, so he has a good ear. So he probably picks up on the accent very soon. He's a guy that lived, he lived the city, he lived in the streets, he talked to people. So I'm assuming he thought his British was perfection. I'm sure he didn't even know he had an accent. So I just kind of went for that. I'm going to speak whatever my own best British accent is, which is not very good. Never really thought about it too much.
I think, and in terms of the scenes that were written in Serbian, I think it just was observed from real life, and the conversations that I would listen to when I was in Serbia with my grandparents, and the frustrations and the love he had for his sibling, and it was like Slavko said, it wasn't deeply thought about. It was just kind of as real as the English side was too,
And everyone portraying people who speak Serbian, which is pretty much the same language.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and then obviously Vlad's experience as an immigrant in conflict to build his life in the UK is a central aspect of the film. Insights or research you did to portray that authentically.
The Serbo-Croatian War, what it feels. I was very young, but I know how it feels to be separated from your family and displaced. Knowing about that, it's a story that's very close to me, although I haven't experienced it. Also, I moved away from home when I was 18, so I know how it feels to be young and live somewhere completely different from those two. My own experience and the experience of the people from our countries. It's unfortunately it still feels fresh because people just don't seem to get over some things. It's it's somewhere in me.
And then I'd love to hear about any broached on it before, but if there were any like directorial challenges. I know you said you had some arguments when you're hungry, Slavko.
That doesn't count. That's just
No, you just needed a Twix or what was it, a Snickers?
Yeah.
To hear about that. If there aren't.
No, I know. I honestly had a really, really great set experience. I think all my challenges came from prep. I think it was having a really good set experience means that you did good in prep. Always go wrong, but yeah, prep was the most challenging for me. I think also because it's my debut, it was like just the scale of everything that I was in charge of and all the people you had to answer to and I guess feeling the pressure of until the first shoot day. Really hard, especially difficult to stick very strongly to what you believe in environments like that. And even though everyone wants you to do what you want to do, it's still very easy to give a quick answer rather than a considered one because you want someone to be able to do their job, right? It's like, even if it's down to props, oh, quickly tell me what color do you want the cigarette box to be, for example. It's easy for me to say blue. And then 5 minutes later, I'm like, no, wait, that's not what I wanted. So I think one of a producer friend of mine during prep, he messaged me and said, you can always ask for 15 minutes. And it was a really helpful piece of advice. And from that day forward, I just kept saying, can you come back to me in 15 minutes, please? And so that I could actually think about, I had already been thinking about for years. It's really easy for those things to get snatched from you in a moment of high pressure. I'd say that navigating that balance was probably the most challenging thing. Set, I found quite fun.
Yeah,
Set was fun. I think there was maybe one day I felt really overwhelmed and these guys wrote me a lovely note on my monitor. And it was because it was a big, it was one of the big music scenes with a lot of extras and I had never worked with extras before. Like the bigger days could feel overwhelming, feelings that I just let pass through me, And yeah, it's okay. It's okay to feel nervous. And
I'm definitely going to add that she's one of the, if not the most concise, kind, and just gives you freedom to play around and then has an absolute knowledge of how to bring it back to where it needs to be or expand. She is an amazing director, seeing from firsthand experience.
Yeah, just a note, like, less singing in the rain, please. But jokes aside, I want to key in on something you said about the prop master, like the color of the cigarette box being like blue or red or something like that. I imagine because, obviously it's a personal story to recall memories of, oh, what was that? What did he like have Marlboro Reds or things like that? So yeah, I imagine.
Like I wasn't so precious about everything like that. There were some things I was precious about, like maybe some more cultural specific things, how he made coffee and like definitely the music he would listen to, the DVDs that were on his shelf. We didn't have budget to clear Marlboro, but yes, that would be as an example. It's a good example for this character. Yeah, like all of those things. I think you just have to know when to be precious and when not to be.
Yeah, because and the reason I kind of key in on that is because I'm at the age where, or I'm so far removed from my own father's death about 10 years ago now, and 11 years ago now, that I'm starting to forget stuff. So I think when you're talking about that 15 minutes, I'm like, yeah, I would need 15 minutes to just be like, what did the cigarette box look like? Like that. So I totally understand. Yeah. About, obviously Surviving Earth made its world premiere. Congratulations.
Thank
you.
Hear about the core message or takeaway that you hope audiences walk away with after experiencing Vlad's story, even even you could just share some stories from that world premiere.
And I think the only thing I want people to feel whatever they feel, but I think it's very important for me that we are all kinder to each other, and that you can take from the film the humanization of each other. Like we live in a world of cancel culture and hate and like judgment
and
and
self-loathing also.
And self-loathing, yeah. And I think in writing this version of Vlad and in making the film, I have in turn become more kind and more non-judgmental and more compassionate for other people. And so I would think if I had to pick one thing, it would be that.
Yeah, somebody asked this yesterday, and I wanted to say, well, the point is like be kind to yourself and others, and it sounds like such a basic thing to say today. And because it sounds so basic, it means that it should be told, because people are forgetting this. People are forgetting to, accept themselves and strive to be better first toward yourself, so you can be better to others. As Thea said, people should feel whatever they want to feel and process. And
I hope people do feel whatever they feel, about a film. I feel, ironically, that sometimes we prescribe things to a film, like, oh no, you're supposed to feel because the ending is sad, right? I was watching We Live in Time last night, and I'm like, oh, I'm supposed to feel sad, but I really don't feel sad. The film's a celebration of somebody's life.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Help us. What did you feel when you watched the movie? Help us. Give us a good answer for the other people.
I mean, I feel the same way. I like I was talking about with We Live in Time. I think it's more a celebration, like looking back at a memory of a person you knew. I mean, I'm sure that's way too long to put on a poster. That's like a paragraph long, but yeah,
no, but you're right. That's the point of it. And there was the end scene on the page is not what's on in the film, and the end scene was literally a celebration of his life, because that's what happened. Like everyone got together and had this big memorial, and there was a show, and we shot that, and it just didn't feel right in the film in the end. And I think you can achieve that metaphorically through the harmonica players at the end, and I think that achieves, it's the moment. If you're thinking about the film deeply enough, then you will get what you just said from it. Celebration. And I think that's also like how we chose the credit song. It feels like when the song plays in the cinema, I'm like, ooh, it feels like a dance, and it feels like a celebration.
But first time I saw the movie, I said, weirdly, oddly enough, it's a feel-good movie. With all the suffering and everything, it still feels like it is a celebration rather than a downer kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think if you have that experience, so be it. Yeah. Anyways, I liked it. But yeah, I want to thank you both for taking the time. I know it's obviously you're probably very, very, especially with the time change that just happened like overnight, so you like lose an hour of sleep.
Did that happen again?
Yeah.
I didn't even know.
Yeah, last night.
I didn't even know. I'm not even aware.
We went to bed really early.
Yeah, we did.
Same. Instead of 9:30, I went to bed at like 11. Of 11 o'clock, I went to bed at like 9:30. So.
Oh yeah, nice.
So I could kind of adjust better. But yeah, those early morning interviews. During South by Southwest again on March 10th and March 13th.
11th.
I think 11th, March 11th. Sorry.
Yeah. No worries.
Trainings for the next 2 days. For 2 for March 11th and 2 for March 13th. Yeah.
That's right, yeah.
So you have plenty of time to go out, eat some barbecue, and then go and see Surviving Earth. Although that might be a weird experience. Eating barbecue and then like, hey, let's watch this movie. But you can find a link to purchase tickets for any of those 4 screenings in the description of this interview. But Thea Slavko, thank you so much again for taking the time. I really appreciate it. And Thea, I really appreciate you sharing your story with us. Congratulations on your debut film. I didn't, for some reason, that skipped my mind that it was your debut.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. But thank
Lovely
you
to
again.
talk to you today.
Thank you for having us. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you can find me on Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram, and Threads under my username, Austin B Media, as well as my Discord and Patreon community chat. Speaking of Patreon, if you'd like early access to this next interview or more exclusive content, head on over to patreon.com/AustinBMedia. For just $3 a month, you get 48-hour early access to my reviews, podcasts, interviews like this one, and articles, plus patron-only channels on my Discord. The $10 a month tier, you'll unlock uncut podcast episodes, exclusive episodes, and more. If you enjoyed this interview, stay tuned for more Slam Dance and South by Southwest 2025 interviews. Until next time.